thing can do.
Clint Eastwood flying the world's fastest warplane in Firefox, one of 4 new movies going to be reviewing this week on Sneak Previews. And across the aisle from me is Gene Siskel, film critic of the Chicago Tribune.
And this is Roger Ebert, film critic of the Chicago Sun-Times. Now, in addition to Firefox, we'll also be reviewing a couple more down-to-earth films. French filmmaker Bertrand Tavernier's A Week Vacation and Burden of Dreams, a documentary about the making of an ambitious film in the Amazon jungle. But first, Roger begins with Al Pacino's new picture.
The movie is called Author. It stars Al Pacino as the author. He plays a Broadway playwright whose life is coming apart at the seams. He likes his work, he loves his kids, but his new play needs major rewrites. He just fired the director, and his wife is driving him crazy. Then he comes home after a hard day at the theater, and his kids and their friends zap him with a surprise birthday party.
Happy birthday to you! Oh,
I forgot my birthday.
Happy birthday to you! Remember my birthday!
All right, you guys. I've been kind of busy these days. Come on, you guys.
Let me see.
It's not his birthday. It's my birthday.
Yes, okay. Let me see what's
Come on. I had a lousy day today. I turned 42. I fired a director.
Stop watching.
I beat my kids.
Oh.
I forgot to beat my kids. Coming for you, Another one.
Down he goes. Happy birthday, kiddo.
Thanks, kiddo.
Happy birthday, Daddy. Happy birthday, Ivan. Happy birthday, Pup.
Happy birthday, Ivan.
Hey!
Great, only I'm not 43.
You're 43.
I'm 42, Gloria.
You were 42 last year.
You're 43, Pup.
43, Pop. Last year we gave you 42 beach balls.
One was for good luck.
No.
You look good for your age, dear.
Don't you ever tell me I look good for my age again,
Come
Gloria.
on.
Okay.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to
Gloria.
That's Tuesday Weld throwing the cake. It's Al Pacino and the pillow fight. It's really strange to see people like Al Pacino and Tuesday Weld in lightweight material like this. She plays his wife, and she's the mother of his younger child, but as the movie opens, he doesn't know where he stands with her. She's got wanderlust, she says, doesn't believe in staying married to the same man for long. She decides it's time for her to be moving on. So Al Pacino, searching for consolation, falls in love with the leading lady in his new play. She's played by Diane Cannon, and she gets a little tired of being a substitute mother.
I heard that.
I've always been a loud sigher.
So?
So, I think I'd like to try something a little different tonight for dinner.
Fish?
No, I mean maybe eat out.
Oh, that's a hassle. You can never get Igor and Geraldo to agree at the same place. Going to two places it kills the whole day.
Just you and me.
Without the kids?
No, I didn't mean that. Yes, I did. I did mean that. Ivan, I didn't think it was going to mean kids every night.
I got kids, Alice. What can I tell you?
I know you have kids. I mean, I really feel guilty for even complaining about it, Ivan. I love your kids, Ivan. I really do. I just thought it was going to be different.
How so?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I mean, you know, maybe we could have been, I thought we could be part of a group. Maybe Elaine's, maybe the New York Literary Power Structure. Maybe we could have dialogues with Norman Mailer.
Come on, Alice, what the hell are you talking about now? What is this? What are you saying?
Ivan, two artists living together like Monroe and Miller.
Who am I, Monroe or Miller?
Oh. Why do I always have to make jokes?
Well, one of the problems is neither one of these people is Marilyn Monroe or Arthur Miller, and the movie doesn't make them into characters anywhere near that interesting. They throw in names like Elaine's and Norman Mailer to try to make this script sound at least a little contemporary, but this movie is basically just a tired old plot, a recycled situation comedy, tries to seem contemporary by making its hero a playwright, setting the action in New York, populating the cast with method actors, and in this case, that means actors whose talents are far, far greater than the requirement of this script and these characters. No motivation. Right. They're acting in a vacuum. Doesn't work. And what really doesn't work is the ridiculous big scene toward the end of the movie where Pacino and the kids climb up on the roof of their townhouse and get in a big misunderstanding with the cops. Author is a contrived, silly, empty film, a real disappointment from actors like Al Pacino, Tuesday Weld, and Diane Cannon.
It'd be like if Neil Simon wrote James Cagney's White Heat, you know, top of the world, Ma, get it, you know, that kind of, just it's a pathetic scene that you're talking about at the end of that picture. This is a very bad film, as you mentioned, and to see Al Pacino in it is, you know, as I sat there and I saw him in a couple scenes, he's sad, and I saw those great eyes of Pacino and that angular face. I thought, God, I want to see him in Godfather 3. I don't want to see him in this junk. This is dime store Kramer versus Kramer. Kramer versus Kramer had the heart of the situation correct, and it also had the details of life. This film, as you point out, just says Elaine's, and that's supposed to mean contemporary and hip. And I think that Pacino is just lost in his career, I'm afraid. What is he doing trying to gain, I don't know, audience interest by being around cute kids? What is he doing in a film directed by Arthur Hiller, rather than Coppola, let's say?
The ads essentially say things like, Al Pacino more lovable than he's ever been before. Al Pacino was supposed to be an actor. This movie has recycled Henry Fonda and Lucille Ball from Yours, Mine, and Ours. Well, they're actors too, but Pacino's career seemed to be going in a more interesting direction before he started making movies like this.
I think so. Our next film is an extraordinary documentary about the making of a film by a most extraordinary director. The documentary is called Burden of Dreams, and it was shot by San Francisco's Les Blank, who went to South America to record the work of West Germany's Werner Herzog, one of the finest directors in the world today. Herzog's films typically investigate dreamers trying to conquer new lands. For example, he made a film about a would-be king in the jungles of Peru. That, of course, was Aguirre, the Wrath of God. Recently, Herzog returned to the same jungle terrain for a new film, and the documentary we're reviewing here is about Werner Herzog on his most grandiose adventure, the filming of Fitzcarraldo, the story of an Irish con man who wants to bring Enrico Caruso to the Amazon jungle. First, though, he has to build an opera house, which involves him hauling a huge boat from one river system to another across a mile of mountainous jungle. And director Herzog, in his movie about this guy, wants to do the very same thing, haul a boat, the whole boat, up the mountain, at about a 40-degree angle and down the other side to the other river. But before he runs into problems with the boat, the film experiences other problems with its stars.
In January 1981, filming finally begins in Iquitos, 1,500 miles north of the new camp. Iquitos is a river port city near the headwaters of the Amazon in northern Peru, with a jet airport and a population of 200,000. It was originally a rubber boom town, built at the turn of the century when giant fortunes were being made overnight in the rubber business. This is the historical period in which Herzog's film is set. The cast features Jason Robards as Fitzcarraldo, a poor, charming Irishman who's obsessed with grand opera. He's determined to build a great opera house in Iquitos where his idol, Enrico Caruso, can perform. His first scheme involves trying to convince Iquitos high society to finance the project, but to no avail. Mick Jagger plays Fitzcarraldo's sidekick, a simple-minded actor named Wilbur.
We want the opera in Iquitos! We need opera here! Don't you want music in your soul? Oh, yeah! Come and join us!
Since I cannot prove a lover to entertain this farewell well-spoken days. I am determined to prove a villain and hate the idle pleasures of these days.
Wilbur, you are definitely my man.
5 weeks after filming begins, with 40% of the picture completed, Jason Robards comes down with a bad case of amoebic dysentery. He flies home to recover, and his doctor forbids him to return to the set.
So Jason Robards quits, and Mick Jagger does too, because he's got to get on a concert tour, and this film is taking much too long. Herzog replaces both of them with one of his previous stars of his films, Klaus Kinski, and he continues with the film, which ends up taking a full 4 years to complete. And the most difficult moment turns out to be the actual hauling of that boat over the mountainous terrain by native Indians who really don't want to be the only ones shouldering the burden of Herzog's dream.
If we have to push the boat, the owner should be there behind it too. If we die, then he should die too. Why should we die and the owner won't die?
Obviously, we're dealing with a different level of filmmaking than our last picture, Author. I don't know how Fitzcarraldo turned out. It's only been shown at the Cannes Film Festival, this last one, where it earned mixed reviews. But there is nothing wrong with the documentary Burden of Dreams, which turns out to be a remarkable account of a culture and a filmmaker and his vision of the world. Herzog is fascinated with people, it appears, much like himself, who will struggle against nature. He finds something poetic in that struggle, and Burden of Dreams captures all of that beautifully. This is a superb documentary film which has been shown in a 58-minute version on public television recently. I've seen, though, the whole film, which runs 96 minutes, and the whole film is being released in a few theaters nationwide, and it's definitely worth seeing.
I'm in complete agreement with you. I was at the Cannes Film Festival in May. I saw this film, and I also saw Fitzcarraldo.
Right.
And I think if there was ever a film that you should make a documentary about, it's Fitzcarraldo, because here's a fiction film about a man who wants to put a boat over a hill using just muscle and sweat and pulleys and levers and so forth. And here's another man, Werner Herzog, who wants to literally do that. So in a way, Les Blank's film stands back one more step.
Right.
Herzog looks at Fitzcarraldo, Les Blank looks at Herzog.
Right. You've seen both
films. Story.
Which is the better film, oddly enough?
There are two different films. One is a documentary, one is fiction. I wouldn't want to say which one is better. I thought Fitzcarraldo was a very interesting film. I think Burden of Dreams, in terms of getting, you know, we hear about how directors grow so obsessed with their projects and how directors are little gods who control the destinies of the people around them, and they point and somebody does.
It's in this one.
Herzog went into this jungle, and for 4 years he was like his character, Aguirre, the Wrath of God.
Yes, very much so.
He was running people's lives, and he came back with an extraordinary film, and Les Blank came back with a record.
Yeah, I think that also Les Blank makes a film that has a lot to say about the culture, too. Just in photographing the nature and the way he photographs the little ants and the way they end up dominating things. It's a very, I think, a very fine film. I don't know that Fitzcarraldo could be any better, actually.
Well, the Les Blank film is very wonderfully photographed, too, considering the conditions they worked
I agree.
Okay. Oh, my turn.
Why not?
Okay, I'll take one. Okay, our next film reminded me of a friend who told me just the other day that she didn't have the slightest idea what was wrong with her, but something was sure wrong with her. Things were going well. She was in good health. She had a job she loved, but something was wrong, and there were times when she almost wanted to cry. Well, this is the exact situation of the heroine in A Week's Vacation, an intelligent, delicate new French film. The woman is played by Nathalie Baye. She teaches grade school in Lyon, and in this scene, instead of going to school one morning, she goes to the doctor.
100 mètres de plus et j'aurais pas eu la force de sortir de la voiture. Il fallait pas que j'approche plus près du CES, sinon je serais rentrée comme tous les jours. C'est ça qui m'a fait très peur.
Qu'est-ce qu'ils ont fait, tes élèves, pour te mettre dans cet état? Ils ont organisé un trafic de drogue?
Non. C'est pas eux, c'est moi.
Ben oui. En tout cas, tu vas me faire le plaisir de prendre une semaine de vacances, vite fait. Et sans faire le zouave avec Pierre. Proposant vraiment. Il m'a appelé il y a 20 minutes, d'une cabine téléphonique. Il n'est pas à Lyon?
Il est parti à Grenoble 2 jours vendre des maisons.
Tu dois lui téléphoner ce soir. Sinon, il va faire une dépression nerveuse, lui aussi.
Well, she takes the doctor's advice, she takes a week's vacation, and the movie is about what she does during that week. She reevaluates her relationship with her live-in boyfriend. She begins a friendship with the father of one of her students. She goes to visit her own father out in the country, and she gives a lot of thought to the idea of leaving the teaching profession and doing something else with her life. Her boyfriend tries to talk her out of her depression.
Vous marinez chez vos harengs. Alors, qu'est-ce que tu dirais d'une petite maison comme ça, rien que pour toi et moi, avec des cloisons si minces que j'entendrais battre ton cœur d'une pièce à l'autre?
Pourquoi tu les vends alors?
Je croyais que les problèmes de conscience par rapport au boulot, c'était réservé aux intellectuels. Le malheur, c'est que c'est les boulots de con qui rapportent le plus, tu vois.
Et je t'ai dit que t'avais un boulot de con?
Ah non, 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 non. Non, t'en parles jamais. C'est pire.
C'est parce que je parle toujours du bien. Tu sais, les femmes, il n'y a rien à faire. C'est bavard, égocentrique et très, très, très méchant.
Ouais.
J'ai envie de me balader au parc. En Amérique, il paraît que même les adultes font du patin à roulettes. Ça doit être marrant.
Laurence, viens voir. Quitte pas ton boulot. Tu tiendras pas sans les gosses.
You can get a feeling there for Nathalie Baye's performance in this movie. She's kind of the Jill Clayburgh of French cinema. It's a quiet, introspective, low-key performance, and through it, we get a real feeling for the confusion and pain that this woman is experiencing. The movie makes no attempt to explain her depression. There aren't any easy answers. There's only a portrait of a woman in her early 30s who has started to question a lot of the assumptions that her life has been built on. Week's Vacation was directed by Bertrand Tavernier, who in this film and in a real good earlier film named The Clockmaker sensitively examines the lives and feelings of the ordinary people of Lyon, which is a middle-class city in the middle of France. He sees them clearly. He makes them moving and unforgettable. It's his hometown, and he knows it.
Well, you know, I think that when I was watching this and her problem, I was thinking, gee, you know, if this was an American film, it would be all different. It would be a lot of screaming, a lot of crying, a lot of shrieking, and not very much substance.
That's interesting.
In this case, the film, its main quality, quiet. Which happens when you get depressed and can't figure out what's wrong. There are a lot of thinking shots. And with that, we're curious enough to try and figure out what her problem exactly is.
That's what interested me, too. The audience is engaged in her life. You're not just left there in the theater to watch a woman screaming and crying and eating the wallpaper and performing.
Right.
We see the person, we see her problem, we see the people who are in her life, and we're invited to think about her.
Yeah.
Why is she depressed? Why are we depressed sometimes?
Why do people have that transition in their 30s in their life?
Sure.
I can't say this about too many films, but I have a feeling that with this character that I would have liked to meet her now. You know, I'd almost like to go over to France, find this woman, and sit down and talk and see how it turned out, or where she is now. There is that much life in the simplicity of taking a fine actress, giving her a situation and placing her with interesting people who want to help, who can't help, who want to dominate, all these things.
You know what it is? It's an adult film. It's for people in their 30s and 40s to see because it's about them. It's not about kids and spaceships.
Very good. Well, now we're going to get a little bit out into space. Our next film is Clint Eastwood's latest adventure. It's Firefox, with Eastwood playing a U.S. fighter pilot who comes out of retirement after being shell-shocked in the Vietnam War, and he accepts now a new mission for his country. His assignment? Just a Clint Eastwood three-parter. He has to sneak into Russia, steal the Russians' new supersonic plane, and fly it out of Russia. He has different kinds of problems.
It's a piece of cake.
Different kind of problems than her Deep into the picture, here's the way Eastwood steals the plane right out of the Russian hangar where it is under heavy guard. Eastwood is dressed like one of the Russian officers who regularly pilots the plane. That door was going to close in time. It sort of looked that way.
Why didn't they shoot out the tires of the plane?
Never do. Once Eastwood is in the air with, you ought to work for the Russian Secret Service. Once Eastwood is in the air with the plane, the Russians figure out what has happened, and the Russian head of state tries to bluff Clint out of the sky.
Are you enjoying your ride, Mr. Gant? You like our new toy?
Could be improved.
Your expert opinion, Mr. Gant?
You could say that. Aren't you going to threaten me or something?
I will do so if that is what you wish. But first, I will merely ask you to return what does not belong to you.
And you'll forget the whole thing, right?
I do not think that you would believe that, Mr. Gant. Would you? No, of course not. All I will say is that you will live if you return immediately. It is calculated that no more than 4 minutes flying time would be required before we could sight you back over Bilyarsk.
And the alternative?
You will not be allowed to hand over the MiG-31 to the security services of your country. Do not allow that to happen.
I understand. I'm sorry, sir, but I can't do that.
Mr. Gant, as you will be aware, I am not interested in the life of one rogue pilot with a poor health record. I was merely hoping to save the billions of rubles poured into the development of this project. I see you won't allow that to happen. Very well. You will not, of course, make it to wherever you are going. Goodbye, Mr. Gant.
Now, here's another problem with logic. Why doesn't he threaten Eastwood that he's going to blow up New York, let's say, and then put the whole leverage on him? Never does that either. Maybe we ought to join forces here.
Yeah,
once Eastwood steals the plane, Firefox is crackerjack entertainment, and that's what you've seen from the movies in these two clips, with the special effects at the end that are very similar to the final aerial battle scenes in Star Wars, and they're really exciting. But the problem with this movie, and it's a severe one, I think, is that it takes just too long to get the plane into the air, over an hour. And we have to suffer through Eastwood's laborious infiltration of the Russian security system when we obviously know he's going to make it, at least to the plane. But is it dazzling, and the dazzling finish, is that all worth the wait? For Clint Eastwood fans, I suppose yes. For everyone else, probably not. In any event, I really wish this film were tighter, because I sure like the ending.
I love the ending, too, and I didn't object to the first part of the film. I think that a genre like this has certain conventions. It's like the Guns of Navarone. You know that eventually David Niven and everybody else is going to make it to the Guns of Navarone, but first you have to see them from afar. You have to have the music.
I understand
You have to
that.
look, for example, the first time that Eastwood sees the plane and he circles it. That's all just part of the territory.
But, Raj, when he was in the bathroom there having his fits of conscience about Vietnam, didn't you want the thing to move along a little bit?
It's part of the story. You know that you're being set up for the fact that once he gets on the plane, he's going to have more flashbacks to Vietnam.
Okay. I
think the special effects are worth it. They're pretty good. In fact, they're great.
Well, it's Sparky, the Wonder Dog, eliminating the disagreement and reminding us it's time for Dog of the Week, the week's worst movies.
Well, my dog this week has one of the all-time Dog of the Week titles. It's called Mystagogue Superman. Now, you figure with a title like that, the movie's going to be about something special, and Mystagogue Superman sure is. It's about a struggle for the Buddha's 18th circle of knowledge, the ultimate kung fu technique. Didn't realize the Buddha did kung fu, but see this movie. Eventually, the hero does learn the ultimate kung fu secret from the Buddha's 18th circle of knowledge, which is, well, let me explain this. You know how Karate experts can chop through a brick with their bare hand. Well, with the 18th circle of Kung Fu, you can do a little better than that.
Like what?
You can throw your opponent through a brick wall with your bare hands, but the Kung Fu master who learns this secret learns it the hard way by being thrown through the brick wall himself, after which he immediately enters the 19th circle of knowledge and retires from action on this planet.
I don't know if my dog is quite that wild. It's strange, though. My dog this week is a swinging wife, which I saw at a drive-in, and it turned out to be made in Europe in 1974, sort of skin flick. We get TV-style man-on-the-street interviews with women who talk about why they are willing to have affairs with other men, and then their stories come to life. The one that I like the best, and this has to rank with the strangest scenes I've ever seen in a movie, is the story of a traveling salesman who sells dirty magazines along with the complete works of Thomas Mann. And sure enough, he sells both to one woman before going to bed with her. The moral of all this? You never know what you're going to see when you go to a drive-in. Amazing.
If Thomas Mann gets a little bit thick going, just turn to the dirty magazine. So much for the dogs. Let's take another look at the main movies on this show. We both voted no on Author, the new Al Pacino movie. We thought it was a phony, contrived exercise, recycled Kramer versus Kramer. We had a lot of admiration, though, for Burden of Dreams, Les Blank's spellbinding documentary about German director Werner Herzog's obsessive scheme to drag a steamship up a hill and make a movie about it. 2 big yes votes for that one. 2 more yes votes for A Week's Vacation, the sensitive, perceptive film about a French school teacher who is suddenly filled with doubts about her life, her relationships, and her profession. But we split on Firefox, the new Clint Eastwood thriller. Gene reluctantly voted no. He thought the movie took too long to get to its exciting conclusion. But I vote yes. I thought this was a well-crafted, exciting thriller with some superior special effects.
Well, that's all for this week. Join us next time when we take a look at 4 new movies, including Blade Runner, starring Harrison Ford as a futuristic detective, and Diner, the story of 4 young men coming of age. Until then, we'll see you at the movies.
Funding for sneak previews was provided by this station and by other public television stations.